Get ready to show up with Koolaid and Sarah. It's the show up show, baby.
Right.
All right, let's start this off.
Let's go.
All right, we're rolling. Here we go.
Here we go.
It's going down. The show up show.
The
You
show up
girl
show.
Koolaid. Are you excited? Sarah, this one is just for you.
I'm beyond excited.
Cricket and I were in the studio,
Yeah.
and I've always loved and adored this guy. And this was the first time I really got to connect with him. And prayers,
Hi, everyone. Hi, ladies.
Hi,
you
prayers.
are so special.
Well, thank you.
And
My mom would agree.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. Oh,
I
we
think
got
a lot of
about
people
that.
would agree.
We got- I got a feeling about your mom from a
My mom would
conversation
agree.
we had
Yeah.
in the studio. I got a feeling
Yeah.
about your mom. Like I dig your mom. She's a
Yeah.
real one, and I think that's why you married a real one, because you got a real one for a mom.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I'm hoping that this can be a little more than just musical, because
Yeah, I would love that.
we all know that you are the musical god as far as your movement, which Sarah, I know you're impressed. Can you explain that a little bit? Can you explain your movement and who you
Oh,
are?
the Chologoth movement?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I think I can try. It comes from really the music that I make I think for most people, it comes from their experience, at least in Chicano rap or in general, right? When people create, they create from their experiences. At least I do. I create from my experiences. And I would have to take you down a long road, but in a nutshell, I was just trying to get things off my chest. And I was just trying to, I was really just using music as almost therapy, really, just as a way for me to, it was almost like my diary. And I was just kind of sharing it with, when I first started, just with those that were close to me. And then an audience grew from that. And then it became a thing that I was like, oh, okay, this somehow I can do this, not necessarily for a living, but like I can do this. And I surrendered to it. And then it gave me the life that I have now. But it didn't come from me really like thinking too much about it. Like, oh, I'm going to be a musician. It wasn't any of that. It was just, I was really just trying to express myself and trying to even learn about myself. Because in a lot of these songs, I'm really just having dialogue with myself. But it's inner dialogue that comes to the surface.
Well, and we can all feel it inside. And it's really interesting to me too, though, because like, I mean, musically, what were, we aren't going to keep this all about music, but I'm just intrigued. What were those early influences? Because you came up in the hotbed of Chicano rap, which we all know is my
Yeah.
passion. You came up in San Diego at that era of
Absolutely.
all of those guys coming out of San Diego. That was a
Yeah.
huge part of the movement.
Yeah, and I'm from Sherman, and Little One is from Sherman, and he's a big personality in that world, of Chicano rap.
And you had Shadow, you had Little
Shadow.
Rob. I mean, you
Yeah.
had the movement out of San Diego
Yeah.
of the top
Yeah,
dogs.
Little Rob,
What made you go?
Night Owl.
Night Owl. Oh, rest in peace.
Rest in
Can't
peace.
forget the homie Night Owl.
yeah.
So what made you go the direction you went?
Well, I just didn't. I just can't do Chicano rap. I don't know why. Even if I tried, it's just not in my DNA. Even though I grew up, even though I'm from a gang and I grew up in the world, it just never. That music never resonated with me. I don't know why. I just grew up listening to like Depeche Mode and Pet Shop Boys and Sisters of Mercy, and that's kind of like musically what resonates with me and what I identify with. And so when I started making music, I didn't really understand even how to make music because I didn't have I just am self-taught. So when I started doing music, it came out very, very honest, and that's what came out of me. That's just what I make. I don't know how to make anything else. I've been asked to do that type of music, and I've gave it a shot. Yeah, but I'm like, dude, I don't know how to do this.
Yeah.
I just can't talk about. It's hard for me to like. I don't know. I think there's a part of it. It's not that it's a turnoff, but I just can't be like. I gotta be me, in a sense.
It's not authentic
So
to who
it's
you
not
are.
authentic to who I am. So I can't talk about like I'm a badass or I'm the toughest guy around or I'm gonna. I'm not. So I just write things that are honest to me. I can't do the tough guy thing, you know?
Well, you had a feeling about all that was intriguing to you.
Well,
As far as the boldness of all of that.
Well, absolutely, because what her and I talked about when I looked you up and I started to look into your music and what you do, and you said goth cholo, and the
Yeah.
two together generally don't necessarily
Yeah.
go in the same sentence.
Absolutely.
Generally,
Yeah.
And so what I thought was so beautiful is that for you, like you said, growing up, if Chicano rap was the thing and that wasn't authentic to you, opposed to fighting that and saying like, I'm just going to make this work and I'm going to do it even if it authentically doesn't stick with me, I'm just going to do it. You didn't. And not only did you not do it, but you normally, we want to put people in one box, right? Like, okay, you're just goth, or you're just Chicano rap, or you're just cholo, or you're just country, or whatever that box is, right? For you, it wasn't just one box. It was like, I'm a little bit of everything.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it sounds to me like that's not what you were surrounded with. That's not what you were used to. That's not what you were seeing. And so to create that own lane for yourself is beautiful. What a testament to you and who you are, and the authenticity of your willingness to say, like, that doesn't resonate with me, but this does.
Yeah.
This doesn't exist. So I'm going to create it and I'm going to make it happen.
Yeah, I don't even think I thought that far into it, honestly. I was just being like myself.
Right.
And I've always been this way. Even you can ask people that grew up with me from the gang that I'm from, they'll tell you, no, he's always been that way.
He was bumping the Smiths and Depeche Mode.
He's not,
Yeah.
he's not pretending to be this character. He's always been that way. And the thing with me in my neighborhood and the gang, that for me, it really was community and a combination of things. And it was more that, and the gang aspect obviously came with it, but it wasn't like the driving force behind it.
Sure.
Like, it was more like, oh, these are my friends. I love them and they'll do anything for me. I'll do anything for them. But like the culture part of it, it didn't intrigue me.
Yeah.
Like the lower riders and all that stuff. I don't know. I like that stuff, but it didn't, I don't know why it just never clicked with me.
Sure.
Sure.
Where
I have friends that say that I'm like secretly white.
What do you have
from my gang? They're like, dude, you're like secretly white.
Do you have siblings?
I'm the oldest.
Pops around too?
Both my parents are both deceased. My parents are my mom passed away 2 years ago, and my father passed away in 2005. But I have 5 siblings, and I'm the oldest of 6.
How many girls are in there? I'm curious.
There's 2 girls.
Okay.
Yeah.
Were you really close to your sisters?
No, I'm not close to any of them.
And you said you're the oldest?
I'm the oldest.
So you weren't even being influenced by their music. If anything, you were influencing the household.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's wild.
Where does that come? Where does that strength come from?
No idea, honestly. I mean, I can share with you guys. I think it comes from my mother. I think my mother filled my head with ideas of grandeur, as a very, very young boy.
Meaning you could do anything. You were capable
in an interesting, in a very spiritual way. And if you listen to my music, it's in there. So I think a lot of my music, I'm wrestling with so many things. One of them is like obviously anger and a lot of betrayal. And at some point when I first started making music, I was really angry at God, and I was wrestling with my own identity. But a lot of it comes from, I guess, I could start from the beginning, and I could say that, like, my mom shared a lot of stories with me that I can see that my siblings are very the same. And I'm not saying that I'm not like them, but I'm not, like they're very close. My siblings are super close. Even 2 of my brothers married 2 sisters. Wow. That's how close they are. They're always... And, but I never really had a connection, and I don't know if that comes from my mom or where, but I know that, like, even my name, right? My name is Rafael. So I was named after an archangel. When I was in school, I discovered the word junior and what it meant. And I was intrigued by it. And I was like, oh, why am I not junior? Because a friend of mine, we'd call him Junior. And one day I was like, why do they call you Junior?
Yeah.
And he explained that it was because he was named after his dad, and he's the oldest. And I was like, wait, I'm the oldest.
Right.
Why am I not named after my dad?
Right.
So I asked my mother, I'm like, hey, I found out that Junior they call him Junior because he's named after his dad. How come I'm Rafael? And then my little brother, he's Alfonso. Shouldn't I be Alfonso? My mom was like, well, the thing is that like I named you Rafael because you're my special boy. Like you gave me the life that I have. And basically my mom says that when she married my dad, my mom couldn't get pregnant and she was like anemic and that she would bleed out a lot. So my father's seed wouldn't stick. So my father basically was going to leave my mother, and he wanted a family. He wanted children.
Mm-hmm.
So I think my father at the time started talking to my mother's sister, and that really hurt my mother. And she was she was very desperate at the time, and they kept trying, but my father, I guess, got to the point where it's like, hey, I'm going to leave you if you can't give me a family.
Sure.
So my mother says that she went to see a healer, like a curandera in the little pueblo that we grew up in, like I guess you could say a witch.
Mm-hmm.
And she had my mom do a certain ritual that came. That's why there's a lot of magic in my content and my music. I grew up around a lot of beliefs of magic. And so she had my mother drink a certain thing and do a certain thing. I just remember she said she had to put like a peso, a coin. She had to put a coin in her belly button, and she had to drink this thing. And then the lady basically told her like, you're going to get pregnant, but this ritual is dedicated to the archangel Raphael, because Raphael is the healer angel. So in Hebrew, Raphael means healer. So you have to, whether it's a boy or a girl, it's going to be named after this angel, because you need this angel's blessing to be named, to be able to get pregnant.
Sure.
So she followed the steps, did this ritual, she got pregnant, and then I was born. So they named me Rafael.
Sure.
So I don't have a middle name. All my siblings are named after uncles or aunts, and they all have middle names. They all have long names.
Yeah.
Traditional Mexican long names.
Sure. I
only am named Rafael Reyes. That's it. I don't have a middle name or anything. So she shares this story with me, and she just, these are the type of stories that I grew up with my mom. And not only, so she always gave me this idea that it was bigger, or that I had a purpose.
Yeah.
And that probably explains too why you're so spiritually connected with and so open to that world that some might look at our question as like negative.
Yeah.
But really a lot of it is just light and intentions and believing. I mean, I'm a big fan of Raphael. That's probably my favorite archangel during my hard times when like therapy wouldn't cut through for me. Nothing would cut through. I didn't know what to do. We had a friend who would pull my cards, and Raphael would always pop up.
Yeah.
You're going to be okay. So like I have a huge connection with Raphael.
Yeah.
With Archangel Raphael.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of people don't understand also the positivity behind some of that, and behind what you do and who you are. And what I thought was really interesting when we got to talk, I mean, marriage is not easy. Having kids is not easy. It changes dynamics. It changes things. And I hope you don't mind me sharing this, but what I love was your commitment to your family. And that's why I wanted to bring you here with Sarah, because bringing awareness to mental health, especially in my community that I love so much, especially feeling like if there was more mental health work done within my own marriage, it might have been different. You made that commitment and that sacrifice to, you tell your story.
Well, I mean, again, it starts with, my mother. When I got married 6 years ago. I'm almost 50, So
welcome.
Thank you. No, I love it. But what I'm saying is that for a long time, I've avoided serious relationships. The majority of my life. I think a lot of it came from feeling responsible for my parents, and for their family. And my parents always put this responsibility on me. Even when my mother died, she was like, don't abandon your siblings. Continue to help them. You know, they need your help. I was like, okay. So I was always kind of like I never really got treated as a son. I always got treated like a second father.
Yeah.
You know, and all these responsibilities financially fell onto me. So I think because of it, I always avoided having serious relationships because I was like, well, I can't have a serious relationship because I already have a family that I'm raising, that I'm taking care of.
My responsibility.
My responsibility is to my siblings, and they were having kids early, and I had a kid when I was 17. So I was like, it's a lot, right?
Yeah.
And I don't know if I knew this consciously, but subconsciously there was something there that kept me from having a life for myself.
Sure.
From having my own life. You know, even everything that I always did had to do with helping my family to move forward in one way or another. And I felt like I was more of a tool to get what was needed out of life than an actual like son, you know?
Sure. You were born with a job.
I was born with a job. So when I finally met my wife, you know, I felt like, and it was really interesting because I think things were falling in place. Like I had already kind of disconnected from dating. When I met my wife, I had already stopped dating for like, I think 3 or 4 months. I was like, I'm going to take a break from dating and all this thing. I was kind of like clearing my mind. There was just so much going on in my life that I just didn't want to deal with relationships. So when I met my wife, it was perfect. I was like single. I wasn't seeing anyone. So you know, my dad was no longer alive, but I asked my mom for her blessing. I said, hey, Mom, you know, I met this woman. I really want to marry her. And my mom was like, well, you know, I know you. And my mom at the time, you know, I was a bit of a womanizer. I had a lot of girlfriends. You know, I was dating a lot. And my mom would see that, you know, and she was like, man, I don't know if you're made for that. You know, to be with one woman. I know that you know, you've had a lot of girlfriends in your life, and you think you can do this. And I was like, yeah, absolutely. I've actually haven't been dating almost for like 6 months. I've had no girlfriends. I don't know why. I just, you know, needed a break from all of that. I just got bored of it, you know?
Oh, I know why. Because you found the one. Like, you can't get a
He's saying prior to meeting
prior.
It was prior.
Yeah.
Oh,
No,
I missed that. My ADHD missed that part.
No,
of the
prior.
prior to that, I
So
had
you
already,
knew it was coming.
well, I don't know. I don't know if I knew it was coming. I just had already cleaned my plate from that. I just was like, man, my table was like, I just don't.
Wow.
I need a break.
I needed a break. I literally at the time told my bandmate, I was like, man, I'm very like, I don't know. This is very boring to me.
Yeah.
I am just like, I need a break. And he was like, whoa, okay, that's weird. You know, because I always had someone hanging around, you know? So my mom was like, you know, I just don't want you to make this person's life difficult. If you're going to marry her, like, you have to be committed to her, and don't marry her if you're going to destroy her life.
Wow.
You know, like if you're
not ready for her.
If you're going to marry this person, like, you know, I just don't. And I think she was speaking from her own experience because she had to put up with a lot of stuff with my old man, you know.
Sure.
She put up with a lot of stuff from my dad. And I think a lot of it might have been just because of so many kids, you know. So my mom was just basically like, dude, I don't know. Like, you have my blessings, but don't marry this woman if you're going to make her life hell.
Don't fuck with her.
Don't fuck with her.
Isn't that dope?
Yeah.
Yes.
Like a mom to have that dialogue. And
100%.
So I had to sit with that for a little while
Yeah.
before I even, you know, proposed to my wife or anything. And I had to sit with myself and be like, yeah, are you ready to be with one woman? You know, are you ready to do this? And I think I always wanted my own family, you know, and I think without spending too much time thinking about it, I always admired the relationship that my parents had, even though it wasn't the easiest and it was difficult. I loved that they were together and that I could go home and I had both of my parents there, you know? And I was like, I kind of want to have someone that I grow old with,
Yeah.
you know? And so,
I mean, that's the dream, right? Like,
yeah.
it's
So I
just-
made the decision and I said, I can do this. Like, I can totally do this, you know? And yeah, you know, there's moments that are rocky, but we committed to each other and we work through things just like, you know, when we don't see eye to eye about things. A lot of it has to do, actually, when my wife and I get in fights, it's always because of my son. Because, you know,
based
because
around
I
the
spoil him.
stress.
No,
Oh,
because I
please.
spoil him. I spoil him too much. And my wife's just like, she's anti that, you know? And we were talking about this
Yeah,
earlier before the podcast. And that's kind of the only thing. And I think the reason I spoil him too much is because I'm secretly kind of like healing my own inner child through him because I didn't have anything. So I'm trying to give him the world. But that's not right. And I think the reason that I'm the way that I am is because I didn't have anything. I had to work really hard for the little things that I do have. So I actually have to, I'm grateful for my wife because she puts me in my place a lot. And she's like, hey, man, do we really want this kid to, you know, be spoiled?
Well,
you
and
know?
then the dynamic too for making up for, you know, the child that you had when you were younger. You adore your daughter, but I mean, we were young, just like me with Surrealist, who you were a huge, that was our first experience together, was my bonus baby, Jordan, was you taking him on the road and how that changed. I don't know if I've shared this with you yet, how that changed his career and his confidence. Cause at the time, that's when you were like, you were the street king. Like you were, and I'm like, okay, who's Jordan out there with?
Yeah.
And I'll never forget. And I've told this story a million times. And I only heard just the other day when we were in the studio with Cricket, the other part of the story, that you had replaced everybody's backpacks that were stolen and everybody's shit that was stolen on the road. But Jordan's camera was stolen when they were at a show, and he replaced all the equipment. Jordan was filming his stuff. He was a huge mentor, and he shows his friends, his community, grace and strength. And you truly do take care of your people. Yeah. And I know that sometimes I have that conflict, even though, you know, Jordan's my bonus baby and I did the best I could. That was my Power 106 heyday when I was running the streets hard at that point. Yeah. But I do have those feelings of like, I see EJ and Helen now and what the platform they were provided, the advocacy they were provided in education. And you still have that guilt of like, God, I wish I was just a little older and wiser then.
Yeah. Well, I think that part comes also from just always taking care of my siblings. Like, honestly, I worked really hard at a very young age. I bought my mom a house at 24.
Wow.
You know, I bought myself a house when I was barely, not even 27. And then I bought an apartment complex around that same year. So I've been I have been taking care of my siblings, you know, where I was like, hey, if you guys finish high school, I'll buy you each a car and stuff like that, you know? So when I still have that in me. So when your son's stuff was missing, I'm like, yeah, I'm going to replace it. It's already in me to like take care of
people and everybody around.
Yeah. You know what I mean? It's like not even I think it comes already from doing that, helping my family financially, because it's never been about money. It's about the people around me. I make money for people around me. I don't make money for me. I make money to take care of my siblings or my daughter or my son or my wife or my mom and my dad. I've never made money for me. Like I'm always last. You know, I'll buy my sibling a car before I get myself one. You know, so for me, it's like when I did that tour with your son, all the money I made, I spent on replacing everyone's equipment and laptops that they lost. I didn't make no money on that tour because we got robbed. We did a music festival, and our Sprinter bus that we had got broken into, and someone took everyone's backpacks, and everyone had, you know, laptops and cameras and
these are all struggling equipment. Artists around him,
and this was all my crew.
Right.
So we didn't realize because it happened in the lot of the festival, and there was we think it was an inside job actually, and we didn't find out till we got to the hotel. We're like, dude, where's all our stuff? Everything was missing, and you know, I saw everyone's heartbreak. I saw your son go like, dude, my camera, I don't even, you know, that's my life. And then I saw everyone in front of me just kind of like, oh, what am I gonna do? So I was like, dude, don't worry, I'll take care of it. So when I got paid, I just bought
But at the
everyone's.
time, what people don't understand, and we've talked about
Yeah.
this, how people feel like, you're going to make or break their career. You're going to be the key if they get a feature with you, or,
Yeah.
That type of pressure. It might have not seemed like it, but at the time, you're still a struggling artist because
still
you're
live
having
today,
to,
yeah.
right? You're having to invest in your career.
Yeah,
you're
I
having
don't-
to invest in your dreams.
Yeah, I don't
and
have
your
record labels
passion.
behind me. It's
No,
everything
yeah.
has always been self-funded, Yeah, I do everything independently,
What makes you stick to that model?
A combination of things. Really, I just I've tried it all. I've done a little bit of all of it, and nothing has really changed my career. And I think I'm also in a place where I'm just like I've always just had to rely on myself, anyways. Like the little restaurant that I opened, I didn't really have anyone guide me through it. I just figured it out and did it myself. And I think it just comes from old habits. Honestly, it's just I think I am the way that I am because I trust in myself. And I just get it done because I know that no one else is going to.
You have to.
Just that it really just comes from that.
Okay, Sarah, I'm going to let you
Yeah.
ask because I know this is important that you want to start incorporating. Like, we started the Show Up Show because it was for people's broken open moments. That point in your life where you feel so low that you feel like life is dead, life
Yeah.
is gone. For me, that was when my family fell apart. And I
Absolutely.
totally forgot who I was. I couldn't get off the floor.
Yeah.
It was just so dark. And, she would tell me, everybody around me would just please keep pushing through. It'll get better, but you feel like it won't get better. For Sarah, yours.
My husband passed away 3 years ago.
I'm sorry.
I appreciate that. And so for me, it was that broken open moment where you survive something that you don't think is humanly possible to survive.
Yeah. Some don't,
Absolutely.
Some don't.
Some don't.
And we want to make a difference with those some that don't.
Yeah.
And figure out a way where even if somebody's just seeing this right now, that moment of darkness, no, right now I couldn't be happier in my life.
Yeah.
Things, she's starting to feel the energy too, and the shift and the hope. What was your moment, that one moment in life?
Oh, I've had so many.
Yeah.
I've had so many. Like the moment when I first joined a gang. Decision of doing that was some. I did something I didn't want to at the time really do, but I had no choice. I mean, I've had suicidal moments where I was working so hard that I felt like I was just so exhausted when I had my little restaurant. I was trying to get it off the ground. That was really difficult for me. When my father passed away, that was extremely, really difficult for me. Maybe that was one of the hardest. And I punished myself a lot. What had occurred was that for like 4 years, I decided to be my dad's caregiver, and I was taking care of my father for 4 years, and I shouldn't have done that. I should have just hired professional help, but I wanted to connect with my father on a deeper level. And during this time, my father, he would soil himself.
Was that during your career? Like, did you put everything
No,
on pause?
no,
So that
no.
was prior to?
Yeah, this is when I had all the money in the world. I had a very successful restaurant in San Diego, California. I was making probably like, I was making 10 grand a day just in the restaurant, and I had the apartments and I had the properties. So I didn't really have to work. I would just go in and collect money and take it to the bank. So my dad was really sick, and my dad was in a nursing home, and I would visit my dad every day in the nursing home. And one day my dad's like, hey man, I want to go home. I don't want to die here. I want to die in my house. So I took my dad home. We had some nurses, and then they would stop coming around because my dad was very difficult with them and rude. So then I was like, why don't I convince my mom into like, why don't we take care of dad? I'll do the day shift. You do the night shift,
Wow.
So I started taking care of my dad for like 4 years to just kind of bond with him. And then it was very difficult because
4 years.
yeah, and during those 4 years, like, my life was my dad. I would take him to his dialysis appointments that were like, every other day. And I would take him to, I would make his food because he had a really strict diet. And I was just taking care of my old man. And then one day I didn't realize how much it was you know, beaten both of us down
Sure.
emotionally.
Yeah.
And, one day my dad had soiled himself, and I didn't necessarily give him a hard time about it, but I think I didn't have the foresight to understand that, like, obviously, if he could, he would use the restroom on his own,
Sure.
right? It's not like he's like intentionally doing these things, as an adult. That's probably humiliating.
Right.
But I didn't have the foresight at the time because I was just tired, I think, from doing it all. And there wasn't no stimulation in my life. Like, I
Right.
didn't have a girlfriend. There was nothing fun. I was just taking care of my dad. I was so tired at the end of the day by it that I'd just go home and crash. So this one day, my father soils himself, and I'm like, hey, Dad, I have my conversation with him about, like, hey, you need to let me know. I can't wait until I smell it, because then, you're getting a rash and it's bad on your skin and whatever, So, I think my dad was probably frustrated with me. So I make a bath for my dad, and I start cleaning him, and I have to touch his privates, and he's like, we have a bar, so he has to hold on, so it doesn't slip. And I'm cleaning his body, and he goes in on me, and he starts saying, hey, you're a faggot. The reason that you do this is because you like touching my penis, and that's
Wow.
why you take care of me. You just, you like touching me.
Mm.
And it just, like, I don't know, it just enraged me and it hurt me. And I just was really mean to him. I was like, dude, you think I'm like holding my breath right now? Like, you think this turns me on? The only reason I do this is because no one else will do it, Like, none of the other siblings want to do it. No one does it. Nurses don't want to do it. I do it because, I love you, and this is how you treat me, and whatever. We said some really nasty things to each other. And then, I cleaned him up. I put his clean clothes on him, and I just left him on the bed. And I was so angry, I left, and I said mean things to him, like, I hope you die. I'm tired of doing him. I know mom wants you to die too. You're exhausting us, and then I left before my mom got home. So there was never a shift change. I just left like a couple hours before that because I was so angry at him, and went to where all my homies hang out, got high with some of my friends. Never really even been into getting high or drinking, but I did that day. I went, I was so angry. I smoked some weed and drank some beers. And then my mom calls me on the phone, and she's like, where are you? What happened? Before she could even speak, I started just yelling, going like, F him, he's ungrateful. Everything we both do for him. And he sucks, and I know you're tired of him. I'm tired. I hope he dies, And my mom's like, got your wish. And I'm like, I'm like, what the F? And I get in the car all high, and I drive to my mom's house, and my dad passed away because when I abandoned him, um, uh, he choked on his vomit. He threw up and choked on his vomit, and I wasn't there. And my mom wasn't there. My mom came, and then after that, my life unraveled, and I just kind of came undone, and I was doing anything possible to like harm myself. I was getting in fights. I started doing drugs. I had a lot of money too, so it was like, there was no limit to my self destruction. I was womanizing a lot. I started sleeping a lot around with a lot of different women, and then I just I just was kind of like a monster,
Oh, you're gonna
and
punish yourself.
yeah, and I and this is not an exaggeration. I was getting in at least like, you know, a fight every day, like a physical fight every day. I'd go to the clubs at night, to strip clubs. I'd go to bars. I just would fight all the time. And for whatever reason, I always somehow won, even though I'm not the best fighter. But I think I had this crazy rage.
Sure.
And I think people weren't expecting me to just like, they would say something rude to me, and I would just, gouge their eyes out, and just like really mean stuff. And then finally, it came to an end because I hurt some people. I beat up a couple
Mm.
really bad. I got caught for that, and I went to jail for like 6 months, and they were trying to give me 7 years, but Financially, I was well off, so I got myself the best lawyers, and I fought it, and I got 6 months. And then when I came, and that was probably the best thing that happened to me, to be honest with you, just going to jail. And going to jail, I was able to kind of like, I had no more distractions, right? Nothing to hide from. I didn't have women to, distract myself, drugs or fighting, because that's what all these things were. There were just distractions
Sure.
from like, I was from me, because I didn't want to have that conversation with myself
Yeah.
of like, hey, you fucked up, And then in jail, I've had a lot of really interesting spiritual moments in my life, like out of body experiences. I've actually astral projected where my spirit has came out of my body. So I don't know if this was one of those moments, but I had a conversation with my father in jail in a dream. He came to me in a dream, and in that dream, we had closure. We spoke. He forgave me, and he said he loved me, something that he never did in real life, but he said it in this dream. And when I woke up from that dream, I thought me being in jail was a dream. That's how real. I mean, it felt as real, this conversation that we are having. Like, I could see him, I could touch him, and that dream changed my life. When then I was kind of like no longer punishing myself. I was still very upset, but that's also the moment when I started doing music. So when I came out of jail, a lot of it came from writing, where I was just trying to, I had been going to therapy and stuff like that, and they were just teaching me to write things down, things you like about yourself, things you hate about yourself, and like, so I just started writing, and a lot of this writing became songs. That's why a lot of my really early work is very like angry, like, because I was angry at God, I was angry at myself, I was angry at people around me. And, there was a bunch of chaos during that time, there was a lot of chaos. But so my music really came from that chaos. And, they say that life comes out of chaos.
Sure.
So it makes sense that chaos, gave life to the career that I have, that music that I make. But it comes from that, really, my music.
You were able to push the bases that you were able to push through and get through. And there is another side. And,
Yeah.
I mean, there's another side to probably the darkest side, because that's
Yeah.
I didn't expect that from you, and I appreciate you as a caregiver, as somebody who took off my career to be a caregiver. I appreciate and understand that story and understand. And
Yeah, I mean, it's still not easy in the sense where, I mean, and now I at least can talk about it without breaking into tears, because a lot of times because I still have issues with it, I really wish I could go back in time, and just change everything, and sometimes I think, man, if I wouldn't have done that, my dad could have still been around a little bit longer, and then there's a lot of stuff, even, I still have a little bit of resentment. Sometimes I'm like, resentment towards, even, I love my mom, but sometimes like everything was always put on me, even like when my dad was in the hospital and they gave, we had the choice of like leaving him plugged or unplugging him, and my mom's like, oh, it's your choice. And I'm like, dude, it's your husband.
Right.
Why is it my choice? It's your husband. No, it's your decision you have to make. Why can't it be my brother's decision or my sister's decision? Why do I have to make the big decisions in this family? So I sat there with that decision, and I thought, well, I feel like my dad was ready to go a long time ago, and I don't think he wants to.
the quality of life,
It's not there.
that wasn't, and that's why he was so angry when he was.
So I said, sure, just unplug him. Unplug him, and my mother and I stayed the night in the hospital with him, and his eyes were open the whole time, and I could have swore that the whole time he was just fucking, cursing me out, and I was just like, dude, did I make the wrong decision? Should I have left him plugged in? And then I was just like, man, I kind of been stale to this moment. I love my mom so much, but even when she died, telling me like, and I still have like, I still take care of my siblings, my sisters, one of my sisters especially, you know, and it's just like there's part of me where I feel like I've become an enabler, you know, because I'm always coming to the rescue. You know, I never let anybody fall on their face. I never let no one pick themselves up. I have to come and pick them up, you know.
Because that job was given to you. You weren't given
you
a
know,
choice.
and I'm like, dude, I'm taking care of adults,
Right.
you know. They have never been able to grow up because my mom was like, take care of them, make sure they're okay. So I'm like, oh, you're in trouble. Don't worry. I got the lawyer. I'll pay for the lawyer. No, dude, maybe you need to go to jail, you know, or maybe you need to pay for your own lawyer, you know. I can't help it. I have this weird thing that I can't let go of, you know, and I fight sometimes. I'll fight with my siblings sometimes. And I'll say some messed up stuff, but then I still come to the rescue.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, I'll be like, oh, man, grow up already. When are you going to get your shit together?
Yeah.
But then I'm like, it's okay. Here, I'll pay. I got it, though.
Yeah.
What would happen if you let them fall?
They'd probably figure it out, honestly. They probably would. But it goes a little deeper than that, too, because, you know, sometimes my fear is that, like, what if they don't and their kids will suffer? And that's my big issue, is that, like, I want to make sure that the kids don't suffer, you know, because they have little kids, you know. I don't want them to be in shelters or shit like that.
I don't even like to even direct an interview or try and do an interview with prayers. Like when you sit in there, you have so much to offer the world on your own. And I hope that you know that. I know there's a little bit of a rougher side to you too.
Yeah, I mean,
we know you're a fool too.
I'm a fool too, and that's
I don't believe it. I don't. I'm just gonna stand on these words right now.
Yeah.
I don't believe it.
He could be a fool.
I don't buy it, and I don't believe it.
The foolish part comes from, like, also, you know, a lot of it has to do with defending yourself. You know, and I've had to do that the majority of my life, you know, defend yourself. And I mean, listen, even like I have these they're not weird. They're just things that stay with you. Like growing up, you know, my friends would always, hey, tell me, hey, you can't bitch out. You have to fight. And if you fight and you lose, it's better than running, you know? I still have that in me, and it's messed up. I can't dismantle it, you know. To where I remember the last time that I was in jail, like I was just like the only thought that I had in my mind was like, okay, I just got to get in a fight with someone, first fight, and then I'm good. And it was true. I got in a fight, and then everything was good. You know,
which feels so contradictory to me to who you are as a human. To feel like I have to fight, like nothing about you and your spirit to me. Yeah. Is like I'm a fighter and I'm gonna fight. That's not even who you are.
I do it. I do things that I know that are against my nature a lot of times. Right. You know, I go against my nature a lot of times. I always have. You know.
What does that feel like for you when you go against your nature?
I mean, listen, I've done things that like I've gone home and cried about. You know, where I was like, man, I can't believe I hurt that person. You know, but then I'll go back into the streets and I'll be like, yeah, he deserved it. He had to come in. You know, that's what he gets for messing with me. He shouldn't have messed with me.
Sure.
But then I go home and behind closed doors, I'm like, man, I hurt that person, man. I hope he's okay. Make sure that he's okay, God. You know, I don't want, you know. Yeah, so it's you know, a lot of, there's just weird things. It's like there's the outside world that you can't control, you know?
Sure.
You know, and that part of me is needed also. Like you know, I have to also be able to draw boundaries, and sometimes the boundaries come in that form because unfortunately there's certain people that only understand that. Like, can I say, hey man, you know what you're doing? Like, I mean, listen, recently I got in a situation that was so bad that escalated so fast, you know, and I love my wife. I've never seen my wife come out of character. We were at a museum, and it was a kids museum. It's over here at on 6th Street in downtown LA.
Bubble one.
The Bubble World.
Oh, yeah. The Bubble World.
The Bubble World. And I love babies, you know?
Yeah.
So some friends came to visit us, and they have their brand new baby. He's like 6 months. So I wanted the baby. I was like, I want the baby. Let me have the stroller.
Yeah.
I want the baby. So my friends were like, okay, you take the baby. So I had the baby and I put the baby in a stroller, and we're going through the museum, and we're in a section that's very narrow, and people are kind of like the sardines, and my family now has started moving forward because I had the stroller. They I was trying to catch up to them. So on the right side of me, there was a little boy on the ground putting on his shoes. And to the left of me was the lady with a stroller. So I had to go between them. I didn't want to run over the kid. So I just I was trying to go between them without touching either one of them. And I accidentally touched the lady's stroller. I touched her front. My tire touched her tire.
Okay.
And I said, oh my goodness, I'm really sorry. My bad. Mom, sorry. I'm just trying to catch up to my family. And she just explodes like it was nothing. She has her children with her. She has a kid on the stroller and a little like 3 or 4 year old. And her language, she just started going crazy. And I said, man, I'm really sorry. I didn't mean. And it wasn't like I hit the stroller. Right. Our wheels literally just touched.
Yeah.
They just touched.
Yeah.
I don't know if she was having a bad day, but she started her language. She even said, I'm going to catch a case. I'm about to catch a case. And I said, dude, for what?
Wow. At the Bubble Museum.
For what? Yeah. I'm like, you have your kids, and I'm trying to calm her down.
Right.
And the more that I tried using language of like, hey man, this is silly.
Right.
Why are we doing this? Let's enjoy it. I was like, hey, come on. I said, I'm sorry. She wouldn't let go. And she kept and then she turned it into a race thing. And then she started, hey, it's because I'm this. And I'm like, hey, I'm a minority too.
Right.
This has nothing to do with any of that. I am really, truly sorry.
Right.
I'm just trying to catch up to my family. My bad. Please accept my apology. Wouldn't accept it. Just started yelling, making sure that everyone started. And then my wife saw it. Dude, I've never seen my wife like this. My wife came up and was like, hey, that's my husband that you're talking to. Don't speak to him that way.
Wow. That's right.
My husband's a good dude.
Yeah.
She's like, nope, I know my husband. He's not that guy. You watch, and it was the craziest thing because this girl was so aggressive with me. But the minute my wife got aggressive with her, she's like,
shut it down.
Shut it down.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. It's
so sometimes it's the world, the environment, you know? Like sometimes, it's a woman, but what if it would have been a dude?
Well, absolutely. That's the thing.
What do I do?
Well, and then also the fact that you're a woman testing a man like that also bothers me, feeling like there's certain expectations. Yeah,
you got crazy with me, but you didn't get crazy with my wife.
Right. There's certain expectational boundaries that a man,
has to adhere to.
Right. That
like she wouldn't let me go. Like I said, hey man, I'm sorry. Can I just catch up to my family?
Right.
She blocked me, got her stroller in front of me, and just wanted to humiliate me or whatever. I'm like, dude, I'm just trying to catch up to my family.
Yeah.
And then my wife came up and my wife was like, move your effing stroller now. Move that effing stroller.
Yeah.
I'm going to move you.
Yeah.
Okay, since we are on the family, I want to talk about that because, this is what intrigued me about your story when we were talking, and what filled my heart is that you chose therapy for your family.
But listen, I'm going to tell you, I've been doing therapy all my life. This isn't like a new thing for me. I went to school for hypnotherapy. So I graduated as a hypnotherapist, but I never used it.
New gates.
Right.
No, check this out. When I got out of jail.
Prayers.
The expectations just keep going and going.
When I got out of jail, I was always interested.
It doesn't stop.
Yeah, I started doing therapy at a very young age.
How did you start with therapy?
Because of my mother.
Okay.
So there was these programs. I got in a couple situations. The first time was I was in gangs. I hurt someone in front of my mom.
Hurt somebody in front of your mom?
Yeah, I got in a fight.
Okay.
In front of my mom.
Mm-hmm.
And my mom was like, oh, I don't know you. I don't know who you are. This isn't my son.
Because that's the first time she had seen you.
She had the first time ever seen me be violent.
Got it.
Mm-hmm. And so, in the in the community that we lived, there was always little community centers that offered free this. And it was during the time that gangs were really big. So I can't remember the name of the program, but there was this program where people would come and share stories of,
That's dope.
like an outreach.
Yeah.
So she put me in a little outreach, and that was one of the first times that I was exposed to therapy. So they would have like someone in the community that was, come in and speak to the youth, and then I would have private sessions with them, and they were free because we couldn't afford that. My mom couldn't afford that, but I think that was my first exposure to therapy. And then as I got older, I think I really started kind of using some of the practices that I was taught, which was a lot of it was like writing, and I think the last time, so when I got out of jail this last time, there's like a lot of things that happened actually. I had won a scholarship for fashion design, and I ended up going to jail. So I never followed through with it. So when I got out, I started experimenting with music. But during that time, I was also kind of like trying to work on myself. So I was personally seeking therapy. And one of my therapists was a hypnotherapist, and I really liked it. So I was like, I want to pursue this for myself, just so that I can. And in there, I learned about like neurolinguistics, and I really fell in love with neurolinguistics, and that's what I was intrigued with, which was just language, and how language can stimulate or basically there's like certain keys that can open up the mind, like for people, so that you can, I don't know, get messages across. I think one of the words is like when you use the word like, when you use the word because when you say because, it opens up your mind to like, oh, what's next, right? Or the word imagine. When I say, hey, imagine, your mind instantly starts like clearing itself, and it creates like a whiteboard. Okay, imagine, what are we about to imagine?
Power of words.
So I fell in love with that. But I never did anything with it. I just graduated, and then in order for me to get my degree, I had to go and work for someone for a while, But I wasn't doing it for that. So I took it upon myself and just, I learned a lot about tapping and stuff when you kind of like to release certain certain traumas, because what happens is
Not
like
tap dancing.
No, I know
not
tapping.
tapping.
Yeah,
Okay,
I'm hearing about the
I
tapping.
learned
the
about
a lot.
tapping. Yeah, you tap certain meridians and
Yeah.
stuff in your fingers, and because what happens, I guess the body holds memories too, not just the mind. So like if you can do a lot of therapy, and within therapy, someone can fix your mind, right? And you can clear the mind of these PTSDs or all these things, but your body still holds on to it. So you need tapping to let go of of those memories too, of the trauma.
Yeah, I've been interested in learning more.
So what happens is, like, let's say I say, hey, gun violence, right? Don't fear it or whatever. But then I clear it from your mind. But then you're outside and you hear a gunshot, and then all of a sudden you revert back to like trauma. But that's because the body's still holding on to those sounds or to that, So
Memory.
that memory. So I was intrigued by that, but I realized I've done a lot of this just for personal reasons, because I just want to be a better person, for my family. It's really why I do it. I just do it because I just want to be a better father, a better friend, a better brother, whatever. And also because I want to have the tools to just like, there are certain people that can walk all over me. My siblings, they can walk all over me. So I also need in order for me to like put boundaries,
Yeah.
But the last time I did therapy, I went to a program called the Hoffman Institute, which I fell in love with. I recommend it highly. I did it because I went back to old patterns. A lot of these, you can do all the therapy. And I think the reason therapy is important is like you have to constantly do it.
Right.
If you stop doing it, you will revert back to your old patterns. And with me, it's just I'm not consistent. Even though I know better, I'm just not consistent, right? Because my life is multifaceted. There's just so much going on. And I need to find consistency in it, in therapy, which I haven't. So when I stop doing the exercises or the things that I've learned, I revert back to my old ways. And what happened not that long ago is that I reverted back to my old ways. And when I reverted back to my old ways, my wife got to witness what my mom witnessed that one time. And my wife was like, oh, shit, maybe I don't know you.
Wow.
Because someone tested me in front of my wife and in front of my son, and my wife saw me become that monster.
Wow.
And my wife was like, oh, shit.
We're not going to do this.
You can go there like that. And I can, so it scared her. And she was like, hey, babe, like, I don't want that in my life and our son's life. A guy threatened my wife and me and my son at a restaurant. And I stepped into it. I went all out, and I was like, dude, we can go all out right here. Like, you're not going to threaten me or my family or anything. I'll take you out first, And my wife just was like, holy moly, this isn't cool. And so I went back to my old gang ways, that you got to understand that I have more time invested in being a gang member than I do being a productive member of society, right? So I'm 50. I've only been a productive member of society for 10 years. I've been violent and all this other things for like 40, right? So it's going to take a while before the scales are balanced, So it makes sense that I'm going to go back to this because this is what I know. This is what has allowed me to survive.
That's what I was going to say. This was your survival mechanism. This is how you survived, but I don't think that this is accurate to say that this is who you are.
No, absolutely not. No.
I don't believe that to be true.
Who I am is the person that really just wants to get along with everyone.
Yeah.
I
mean, you're such a light when you walk in any room, and I've seen it with the hardest of hard, which I love.
Yeah.
Like, I love watching you walk up to an event and the smile that you put on, like, the hardest of hard dudes' faces, and the love that, like, you bring into a room, and the energy that prayers brings into a room. I mean, your presence.
I treat people the way I want to be treated. Always have. Always have. The violence and the stuff that's always been around me has never come from me. It's just that, like, again, I've been taught, like, you don't run from it.
Right.
You have to face it. You have to, So to bring it back, when that moment happened, my wife was like, hey, man, I need you to do a certain amount of things if we're gonna be together. It was a really scary thing for my wife to witness. And she was basically like, hey, if you don't do these things, I don't know if we can be together.
Wow.
And I don't want to lose her. So it was a very big ultimatum,
Wow.
I don't want to lose my old lady, I want to grow old with her. I'll do anything for her. So it's one of the reasons we left Los Angeles too. I realized that, like, the environment also is, we just got to get away from the chaos sometimes, because, like, I can try as hard as I can and do therapy and all this stuff and try to avoid stuff. But I'm going to tell you, if my wife is in danger or my son, I'm throwing it all away.
Right.
I'm going to go to jail.
Right.
So we decided to change the environment too.
Yeah.
We're like, hey, listen, this environment is just crazy. And even for our son too, we don't want our son to grow up and, be like a Hollywood baby, We want him to be a normal kid. Like I was explaining to you guys earlier that we do certain things, like that my wife wants my son to not just have this crazy glamorous life where she's like, sometimes on purpose, we flight coach. Sometimes we do certain things where we're like, hey, we're going to, do certain things that are like, we just don't want our son to just be always exposed to, like, crazy luxuries. We limit a lot of that.
Isn't that tough? It's like you work so hard to be successful, And then, that kids, especially seeing, watching my kids, same thing, it's like, I don't want them to be entitled with certain things, but it's like, we worked so hard for this.
Yeah, we limit a lot, man. My wife limits a lot, I love her so much, she's brilliant in the way that she sees the world, and she gets it, she gets it. I'm trying to spoil my son.
Yeah.
And she's like, no, and like I said earlier, like when we fight, it's always about that. And she's right. I'm the one that's wrong, I'm just still trying to heal and through my son, which isn't right. My son is his own person. I shouldn't try to like give him the life that I didn't have, like it's interesting. I still have a lot of thinking and maturing to do, I have a good partner that's also helping me along the way, in a lot of ways. So back to the story. When this incident happened, she was like, "Hey man, you got to look for help." So I did this thing called the Hoffman Institute, and it was awesome. I loved it, and I was able to do a lot of because a lot of it comes from the inner child.
Of course,
a lot of the anger, this insecurities that we have, a lot of them comes from the inner child, right? So there was a lot of inner child work. It was really interesting. I can't share too much about the Hoffman Institute because let's say someone wants to go and do it, then if I share too much, a lot of the
their experience is tainted.
Yeah, they'll see what's coming.
Yeah.
I will share one thing though. I'll share a couple things like they take away your phone, so there's no phone. There's no interruptions from the outside world.
No distractions.
No distractions. The moment that you're there, there's no phone. They don't even let you exercise or go for walks. Like you can't do anything that stimulates anything. And they catch you off guard. One of the things that caught me very off guard was that like I never had a birthday. I think I had one birthday party that my dad threw me when I turned maybe like 18 or something, but I never had really like birthday parties, and I didn't really think about it. You just grow, you're just in your life living it.
Sure.
And they threw me a birthday party at the Hoffman Institute. It wasn't my birthday either. It was an experience that they were providing that messed me up,
Wow.
Messed me up. And so they catch you off guard. I love the Hoffman Institute. I had a really great time and experience. I think therapy's needed because, we get to learn about ourselves. And I think that's I think what I love about therapy more than anything, that I get to learn about myself. I think that would, and, for me, I think that's what life is about, right? It's about learning about yourself.
Now, Prayers, you have been through everything from owning restaurants.
Yeah, I still do. I still own it.
You still own it.
Own it, right.
Yeah.
To living in castles.
Yeah.
You've done it all.
Yeah.
Well, life.
Flying coach.
Flying coach.
I fly coach now. Damn it.
Man, you
Damn it.
what goals at 50, me being almost 52 and figuring out what I want to be when I grow up. What goals do you still have that you want to accomplish?
Man, I'm still trying to figure it out straight up, man. No idea. I am very in the present, and I think I don't spend too much time in the future or in the past. I'm just always in the present, like what's in front of me. Like right now, I'm giving you my entire who I am. I'm very present, and I'm like that when I'm at home with my wife and my son. I think because the future has been very unpredictable for me. I didn't know I was going to be married. I didn't know I was going to do music. I honestly thought my life was going to be that I was going to be this guy that owns restaurants. I was like, okay, I'm going to have a restaurant, and then maybe I'll have another, and I'll probably keep buying properties here and there. And I thought that was going to be my life. I never thought I was going to be an artist, even though I always wanted to be an artist, but I never thought that was an option for me.
Yeah.
Because I was like, oh, I gotta work. I can't do things that don't make money.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't have the luxury of dreaming.
Yeah,
I have to make money and take care of people. I have responsibilities. Not dreams.
So what I have what are my goals? I have little goals, like I'm working on a music festival.
Oh, little goals. A little goal.
No, but
little.
You know what I'm
This is
saying?
a humongous
Like,
goal.
I'm figuring out that
I love what you're doing with that, by the way, and I love your culturally where you're bringing it back to your music, and I love seeing everybody like you and Cricket bringing it back to the roots and the joy and the people.
Yeah, and it's been hard, this trying to make a festival has not. I've been working on this for 4 years and it hasn't manifested yet, but it's been a lot of work, and who knows, it might not happen this year either, maybe the next, or who knows, but I have things that I'm working towards, and more importantly, I'm just trying to be a better husband every day. I'm just trying to be a better brother to my siblings and a better father to both my kids, to my daughter Ashley and my son Leofar, and I don't know. My life right now is interesting because I've had in the past, the life that I have right now is very new to me also. So I'm still, even though I've been married for six years now, it's still very new to me, like a life that doesn't have chaos is very new to me.
Yeah.
I just, chaos has always been in my life. So not having it feels a little bit strange.
Sure.
And
are you allowing
self-sabotage
yourself
too?
I was just going to ask. Are you allowing yourself to accept that, or is there
I am. I struggle from self-sabotage, and that was, I think that's what my mom, maybe witnessed, and what she was like, are you going to do this, because I know you. And and the thing is that I have to try to feel deserving of these things, because there's still moments where I feel like, how come I have this and, maybe my siblings don't, and how I have, my son has this, but my daughter didn't have that. And, so I have this inner dialogue often that feels like, I don't know, sometimes I feel undeserving of things, sometimes I still feel like, do I deserve to be happy? Of course I do, but
Yeah.
Well, prayers to end this. What I wish for you is that you can see the wonderful human we see, and with all the peace you're searching for everybody around you and giving them, I hope that coming up to 50, you can find that for yourself and continue to bring that in for yourself, because you deserve it. You're an amazing human who brings amazing energy to the world, and I completely look up to you.
Oh, thank you, sisters.
Your vulnerability is beautiful, and we appreciate it, and your willingness to show up and to just be who you are is a gift to the world and to the people around you. And I hope that in those moments of quiet where, am I deserving of this? Yeah, you are.
You're way deserving.
Thank you.
And that's why your wife is the top of the food chain. I've told you this.
Yeah,
you don't get any
is.
better than that. You could strip her of every material thing. And I told you this the other day, that she has.
Yeah.
It's her brain, her brilliance, and her strength that everybody gravitated to. And she gravitated to you. And now you guys have your beautiful son, and you deserve everything you have. And I adore you, big homie.
Get ready to show up with Koolaid and Sarah. It's the show up show, baby.